Welcome. If you are just tuning in, this is 726 here in Harrison, Arkansas, and I am visiting with Dr. Britton Lott. She is actually a local girl who has made it big, I guess.
Something like that.
And tell us what you do. And you work with the Breast Center of Harrison, but you also work in Fayetteville as well. So just a little background there before we dive into the interview.
So I'm part of a clinic called the Breast Center, and our first location was in Fayetteville. Our second location was in Bentonville, and we have so many Harrison and Jasper and Berryville patients who come over to see us and kept saying, is there any way you'd open a clinic in Harrison? And being a Harrison native, being a goblin at heart, eventually the time was just right to open our third location here.
Okay, so obviously we're discussing about breast awareness and mammography, and I want to know specifically what is offered through the breast cancer, or the breast center, Breast Center of Harrison that, well, first of all, we'll just start with that question, so tell me.
Yeah, so we offer several things. Obviously, mammography is kind of the hallmark of breast imaging and breast cancer detection, and mammography is basically an x-ray of the breast. And in the past, it's just been kind of a 2D image, so just a picture from the side and a picture from the top, and the doctor would look and see as best as they could if there were signs of cancer.
There was no real way to see in between those layers, though.
Correct. That's exactly right. And that's where 3D mammography has come into play. It kind of turns the breast into pages of a book to where you can leaf through the layers of tissue and really make sure nothing's hiding. So it's much more accurate. So that's one thing we offer that we are really proud of. We found a lot of teeny tiny cancers, and that's the whole goal, is to find cancer when it's small.
Okay. And I know, of course, I have my mammogram every year, and it's a little uncomfortable. Is this the same type of, how do they, is it like an MRI, or how's it, or is it CAT scan?
So it still requires compression, which is the part that women sometimes say is a little bit uncomfortable. But the beauty of the newer machines is that the back of the paddle, the part that kind of squeezes the breast, is now made of a flexible silicone material. And so it's not as kind of pinchy for most people. And so a lot of gals who haven't had mammograms for 5 or 10 years come in and have one done and say, do I want to have one every day for entertainment? No, but I can do this once a year. And so they are more comfortable now.
Okay. And why, go ahead, I mean, I know why I have one, but some people may need to be reminded as to why you should have a mammogram and breast exam. And
well, breast cancer is such a common cancer, and it gets more common with every year of life. 25% of breast cancers are related to family risk factors. So obviously if you have a mom or a sister or grandmother with breast cancer, it's important. But that leaves 75% of breast cancers that just happen what we call spontaneously, just bad luck, one cell making one mistake. And so even if you don't have a family history, it's important to have mammograms, because if you can find a cancer before you can feel it, the prognosis is so much better than if you come in already feeling a change in your breast.
And you're not saying don't do breast exams. I'm not good about doing that, I have to admit. My yearly is about it. But, I know the importance, and I just...
They can be hard. No, mammography should definitely be done in conjunction with self-exams and, as you mentioned, yearly clinical breast exams. And I hear what you say from a lot of my patients, that self-exams are difficult. Either their tissue is nodular, or they can't tell what to worry about.
Right.
The reality is most changes in the breast that mean cancer really feel very firm or feel stuck or tethered, where if you push the tissue, it doesn't move normally.
Okay.
And I always coach my patients too, if you do monthly self-exams and kind of know the lay of the land, you're more likely to notice a change if it happens. So even if it feels frustrating at first, I always tell people to keep trying monthly, and that way if something does ever happen, you're more likely to notice it.
You would notice a difference then.
Yeah, so both are important.
Okay, so what are some of the signs and symptoms of breast problems that women should be aware of? And not just women, men have issues
as well. Men do
get
breast cancer occasionally, for a typical breast exam, I always tell people to look for firm or fixed lumps. That's kind of the most classic symptom of a breast cancer. Also, to look for skin changes. If your skin gets red or looks pitted or puffy, kind of like the skin of an orange, that can sometimes be the sign of a cancer that's growing near the skin.
Okay.
And then I always tell women to include their nipple in their search pattern. If one nipple pulls in or has discharge, especially if the discharge is bloody, then you should pay attention to that. And then the last thing I tell people to do is check their armpit. That can be a bumpy spot too, but the breast is not a circle. The breast is shaped like a teardrop, and so there is some breast tissue in the armpit. So I know that's a lot to remember, but I think it helps for people to know what they're looking for instead of just blindly feeling around.
Right. Well, that's true. You should.
Yeah.
And we're so glad that you all have come to Harrison and offer the 3D mammography. I have not scheduled one yet, but I'm looking forward to actually, I just feel like it's more thorough.
It's much more thorough. They're finding that it can detect as many as 30% more cancers. And like I said, we found some tiny cancers that we could not see on just the 2D mammogram.
Right.
And if a cancer is found when it's tiny, the prognosis is good and the treatment is so much less.
Right.
Often women don't need chemotherapy, which is a real game changer. I mean, that is a huge savings to a person's quality of life if they can forego chemotherapy. So that's a reason in and of itself to do screening, is to find a cancer when it's teeny tiny.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do insurances help with this type of mammography?
They do. Insurances across the board are typically very good about covering screening mammograms, and patients can self-refer, meaning you don't have to go to your primary care doctor and get a referral for just an annual mammogram. It's really a wellness benefit.
Well, and I would think that they would rather find it early as well,
Absolutely.
just like we as women would.
It's good for everybody to find it early.
Right.
Yeah.
And then, okay, so you don't have to be referred. You can just call.
You can just call and say, I want a screening mammogram.
Wow.
Yep. Pretty much the only requirement is that it has to have been a full year if it's just a screening check. Now, if you have a symptom, if you feel a change, if you notice something that concerns you, then there's no real timeline. You can come in any time for that.
Okay.
But just for your yearly check, you can just call and schedule it. Most people are in and out in 15 or 20 minutes.
Not bad at all.
No, it's really not.
And what are the hours of the center here in Harrison?
We're open 7:30 to 4, Monday to Thursday.
Oh, okay.
And we've gotten pretty busy pretty fast, so we'll probably open on Fridays eventually. We're kind of just going based on, demand.
Right.
But it's nice to have morning and afternoon slots, and, people will pop in on their lunch break, so pretty easily accomplished.
Okay, and all you got to do is call.
Yeah, it's
and
really that easy.
The number is up on the screen. I was going to ask you, but I can't. It's 479-442. 6266.
Yep.
So we encourage you to call and schedule your mammogram. Obviously, as Dr. Lott has said, it's so crucial to catch early, and what a benefit it is to do that as well.
And one other thing we offer in our Harrison clinic is kind of a density analysis, and this may be a little nerdier than anybody wants to hear, but this is all we do is breast health. Every mammogram is different, and people think a mammogram is like a lab test, like it just spits out yes or no, and that's not the case. A mammogram is really more like looking at kind of an ink blot test.
Okay.
A doctor's looking at an ink blot test and trying to find if there's a cancer in there. Now, if a patient has really dense breast tissue, which is quite common in your 40s and 50s, it can be really hard to see through your mammogram. And in those cases, we actually inform those patients, hey, your tissue is dense. Your mammogram may not be as good as your friends or your grandmother's.
Okay.
And if that's the case, then we can recommend additional tests to do to make sure that nothing's being missed.
Is that where maybe the ultrasound and that kind of thing comes in?
Yeah, we do a screening
ultrasound.
Yeah, it's kind of another level, but as of about a year and a half ago, the Arkansas legislature passed a bill that says if you have dense tissue, your insurance should cover the ultrasound too.
Wow.
Yeah, that kind of started on the coast, took a little while to trickle into Arkansas, but it's here now, and so we have lots of patients with dense tissue who get mammogram and ultrasound every year.
Okay.
Yeah. It's thorough, but you don't want to miss a cancer.
Exactly. That's not something to mess with by any means.
It's not.
Is there anything else that you would like to tell our viewers about
Yeah.
Please do.
Yeah. One thing that I'm really excited about that's getting a lot of momentum, both in the news and just in the medical community as a whole, is kind of personalizing your health care, right? It's not a one-size-fits-all test anymore. And so one thing we're really doing is if people have family history of breast cancer or ovarian cancer, because those are actually two linked kind of cancers. If people have breast or ovarian cancer in their family tree, we are starting to recommend genetic testing if they want it.
And I've read about that.
Yeah.
I've not.
It's amazing. It's just a saliva test. You just spit in a test tube and off the test goes. It's so helpful because it tells you if you have a mutation that might increase your risk. So imagine that you submit the sample, it comes back and says, you have a 70% chance of getting a breast cancer. That's really going to inform the choices you make. Whereas if the result comes back and says you're overall low risk, then you can adjust accordingly. But it really helps women kind of be empowered and make decisions that they feel confident in. So that's one thing we offer that is pretty unique. It's kind of cutting edge, but we're really excited about it. And we're participating in several research trials too with that. So we're excited to bring that to the area. Yeah.
We've talked about on the show before that I'm adopted, so I didn't know really family history. Now, I have since found out my birth mother does not have breast cancer, but we don't know what's down the line since she was adopted as well. So it's just, that's an awesome option.
It is.
To think about.
It's really great, and every year they're increasing coverage of that. In the past, it was difficult to accomplish 5 or 10 years ago.
Right.
Now, the guidelines are pretty broad, and if you qualify and your insurance will cover it, we can do it that day.
Wow.
Yeah.
So there you go. There's no excuse not to. Is there anything else that you would like to throw out there? Or?
Just that we're thrilled to be here. We're located kind of behind Hudson's, so pretty convenient. It's just a single-purpose clinic. That's all we do. So you pull up to the door, get your mammogram, and leave. So we try and make it easy on our patients. Our technologists are
good
great.
hours. So
good hours.
That's not
kind people. You know, our technologists, we really train them to take their time, make sure a patient's comfortable. Because if a patient's comfortable, the images are going to be better. Right? If you rush them through, there might be motion or problems. But if you really take your time and get good pictures, it pays off. So I think our patients feel very well treated. And all the doctors in my group, there's 7 of us, that's all we do. So you know you're getting someone who's, yeah, I mean, that's kind of our area.
Well, thank you very much. We're really glad that you joined us today and helped to maybe uncover some things that you don't know about or don't understand, and to encourage you to get your mammogram. And like she said, you don't really have to necessarily have a doctor's referral. You can just call the breast center and
easy peasy
and do it right there. And the number will be on the screen after the program, so in case you missed it during the interview.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Well, thank you, Dr. Bennett.
Yeah.
I keep calling you Dr. Bennett.
Well, that's how most people here know me, is Dr. Bennett, but yep, now it's Dr. Lott.
Thank you very much. We
you're
appreciate
welcome.
it.
Thanks for having me.
Welcome back. Well, you did a good interview.
Thank
you.
A
good interview with her.
Thank you very much.
And I'm excited.
I enjoyed the one-on-one talking, something that affects so many women.
Yes, and I think that them being here in Harrison will help a lot of people.
Because
a lot of people have to go out of town for that kind of thing, so it's nice to see
for that
growth.
Specialized. Now, you can go get a mammogram, of course, at the hospital here, which is important for sure. But it's nice to have this option.
Sure.
A little more in depth.
And Britton's a hometown girl.
She is. I kept calling her Dr. Bennett because she's Dr. Bennett's daughter. But it's Britton Lott was her name.
Oh, we'd like to thank all the guests who have been on the show today. And if you'd like to be a part of what we do here, we'd like to hear from you. And you can do that in several different ways. You can call us here at the office at 870-741-4891. You can go to our Facebook page at Hometown Television. Just type that in, you'll find us. Or, type that in. Or you can go to our home website at hometowntv.net.
What can you see when you go to that? Well, you can look at local programs.
Yep.
What
local
else?
programs. You can see all of our networks, and the networks are linked to the specific website. So if you want to know anything about 26.1, which is this, you can click the link and it'll take you to their website.
Okay.
You can see all the upcoming shows, the current schedule.
Okay.
And in the old days, we had to print things out and mail things to people, but now people are so savvy on the internet, they just click and go. So, thanks for watching. We'll see you again next time. And don't forget to contact us if you'd like to be on the show. Thanks for watching.